What is the market telling me this week? This is the Rutherford Report, and I'm your host, The Angry Investor. Wall Street pisses me off because it always tries to scam the little guy. So, what is the little guy to do? Well, we watch the market to see what trends are making people rich, and then invest in the assets and companies that are taking advantage of the trends. This is how to get ahead of the market, and this is the place to be to do it. So hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this with someone who would get a lot out of it, because this is the place to be for the financial news that matters for your net worth. Let's get to it. So there's some really interesting data right down here. You can see that October and November, that the U.S. budget deficit was $624 billion, the worst start to a year on record. And all this is telling me is that the trend is still intact. The government spends money. Well, that's going to boost up the economy and is going to boost all asset prices. At least that's my operating theory until the trend changes, because that's what the market is telling me. And some of the other trends that I'm watching very closely are things like this. This article, world's largest asset manager suggests up to 2% is reasonable for Bitcoin portfolio allocation. And they go into all these crazy details, but why I'm watching this is because it's telling me that the trend of Bitcoin adoption is continuing. And you know what? There's another wild article that came out just on this topic. Ray Dalio, one of what I consider the most conservative investors, just based on his all-weather portfolio, where he's like half in bonds and half in stocks, give or take. At least that's what he's been in. I'm not using the exact right percentages, but he has that all-weather portfolio, which is very conservative compared to other portfolios. And he's now saying that he's backing Bitcoin and gold. So Dalio predicts global debt crisis backed by Bitcoin and gold. Now, everyone's been predicting this debt crisis since the 1980s, especially all the doomers. I'm not saying that we won't have one. I'm just saying I don't know when it will happen. And if you look at Japan, they've been spending more and more money, and eventually their central bank will own the entire debt market. So what's going to happen there? It's really impossible to predict. But the reason that I'm looking at this is because I want to build my wealth, and I want to build it faster. And you can too when you understand the trends. And here, clearly, the market is telling me that there's a trend because Dalio is now pumping Bitcoin. So I wonder what's going to happen to Bitcoin. My suspicion is it will probably go up. And it wouldn't surprise me also if it goes sideways or if it goes down. But we are in the part of the cycle where it usually goes pretty parabolic. And that cycle, for anyone who doesn't know it yet, is, well, no one cares about Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes way down, then it halves, then it goes way up, and the cycle repeats. So right now we're in the it goes way up part. So what happens next, and what am I doing about it? Well, I like to look at the data, because one of the other trends that I want to prepare for, and I think that everyone should be paying attention to, is the trend that inflation could come back. Now, why do I say this? Well, look at the data here. Operators of LAX restaurants face a $30 an hour wage. That seems very high to me. From someone who remembers when a $20 minimum wage or a $20 wage seemed like a lot when I was growing up, and that wasn't really too long ago. And now the fast food places at the airport, you're going to get paid $30 an hour. If that isn't inflationary, I don't know what is, because if you're paying a very low-skilled worker $30 an hour, well, they're going to have more money, their rent's going to go up, everything's going to go up. So it's a very interesting trend. One other trend that I'm watching in the market very closely is that the housing market could top out. And everybody's been calling for this for a long time, but the housing market moves extremely slow. So let's look at this graph that came out. And this is a home builder's homes for sale, 1973 to 2024. You can see the number of homes for sale is now reaching way up here. Now they've drawn this arbitrary line of where they're trying to insinuate that there's a bubble here. All I can say is the number is climbing, and the last time it was this high was during the 2006 bubble. So it's something to pay attention to, and here's just the data that backs up this trend. This is a trend of income relative to the price of homes. Of course, this is important because if your income pays for your home, there's only so high the price of a home can go. So here you can see that we're in the sevens, 7 times your average income, and this is even higher than the Great Financial Crisis, and it's just way up there. So I have to ask myself, how long can this be sustainable? Because the housing market, it moves very slowly, but it's one of the biggest components of the economy. Think of all the people making money off of it, all the builders, all of the real estate agents, all of the new furnishings and home improvement products you need to buy when you move. So eventually, if this turns, or when it turns, now, there's a good argument to be made that it's not going to turn right now because of all of the money printing. But you know what? With the new administration coming in, things could change. So we have to keep an eye on these trends to see if the trends change, because that means that the investments that are going to make you wealthy are going to change. And we're clearly in bubble or potential bubble territory. Now, that doesn't mean go out and sell, because these things can go on for a lot longer than you might expect. But one thing that I'm looking at here is just the sentiment index. And if I was a contrarian, I would be very, very worried. And you know what? I am very worried, because the sentiment for the expectations for stock prices to be higher in 12 months is off the charts. Look at this graph. It is higher than it's ever been. It's higher than it's been in 2019. It's higher than it's been in the bubble before the Great Financial Crisis. It's even higher than the dot-com era back here in the 90s, late 90s. So I would be very, very cautious here. But of course, if the market's momentum is up, well, what is the market telling me? The market is telling me everything is good right now. So until the trends change, I'm not going to change my outlook. And if I look at the S&P 500, we're near or hitting all-time highs. We're very close to all-time highs. The trend line is perfectly intact with its past trend line in 2021 up into 2022. It's like a perfect trend line. Bitcoin is marching its way higher. And gold has gone up 30% this year, and now it's consolidating sideways. So all this is telling me is that the market is going up while everyone's worried. So my suspicion is it will continue to go up, at least today. And I'm watching the data to see if anything changes. And right now the market hasn't told me to change my opinion. Now, I do want to point out that people investing in the trend of AI and chips are getting wildly rich. Look what Broadcom did today. It's up 20%. Look at the year-to-date performance. It's up 100%. And over the past 5 years, it's up 590%. This is why trends can make you wealthy. So all I'm trying to do is look at the trends, look at what if they're intact, and look at the companies that are benefiting from these trends. Because if I invest in the companies and the assets that are benefiting from trends, well, I can get outsized gains, and that's what allows people to make a fortune while other people just get average returns. So we're watching the market. I'm still bullish. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this with someone who would get a lot out of it. I'll see you next week. And if you want to know what I'm investing in, go to highreturnlowrisk.com, and you can sign up to my membership site and see what my portfolio is in real time. These are exciting times. Chips are making people a lot of money. They're making me a lot of money. Are you making a lot of money, or are you falling behind? Make sure you're subscribed to this channel where we'll watch the market, because the market is going to tell us what to do. How am I using this information to protect and grow my wealth? Go to highreturnlowrisk.com.